All right, everyone. So this is a very common question I get. Like, what are your favorite submissions from side control? Like, I got a few tricks here, some stuff that I like to use all the time. Wrist locks are some of my favorites because they're very tricky. People don't really see what you're doing until it's too late. And yeah, there's like, people are giving you wrist locks all the time. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite setups here. One of the most common ones I have, just move down a little bit, is when my opponent is framing my neck, right? They're trying to push me away with that frame. The idea here is to take the pressure off my shoulders. So if I'm grabbing the head, I can't really drop my shoulder on his head. Anytime he has this arm on my shoulder or my chest, he's trying to push me away. What he does is exposing his wrist, right? A lot of people don't see it because we always think about pushing with the hand, not necessarily with the forearm. What he should be doing is pushing me with the forearm, not the hand, but most people use the hand. So when this right here happens, I just like to frame. So I frame his hip there with my right elbow and I keep his elbow open. I keep his arm on a 45-degree angle here. And what this does, if I ask Alex to close his elbow now, try to get your elbow to touch your hip. He can't because my arm's in the way and it's framed by my elbow on his hip, right? And once I get that guy right there, it's a very quick bite. I'm gonna pinch the outside of his hand with my chin. And what that does, it tends to fold his wrist a little bit. I don't have to fold it too much, but just enough to do what I'm gonna do next. So I'm biting with my chin, I'm gonna let go and connect my hands. Now his hand's in the perfect position for a wrist lock, and I'm just gonna drive my chest into it. I get this guy all the time. So once again, he frames it open, 1, 2, I bite, and you catch him right there. It's a very low risk submission, very high percentage because I don't really compromise my superior position when I'm doing this, okay? Another one of my favorite wrist locks is when I'm in here and Alex begins to dig his underhook right there, right? And I stop him with this guy right here. So I put my hand in front of his bicep. So now if he tries to shoot that underhook, he can't, it's stopped. I stop him on his tracks. This is a great way of stopping your opponent from getting the underhook as well. But see how I position his arm on the ground here? And he's still trying to push through with that wrist lock. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let go, and I like to bite. Like you can go like this, you can keep this hand here and just bite here. A lot of times I like to grab my own bicep, and then I position my chest right on top of his wrist. I have to just backtrack a little bit. And I like to block his wrist with my face too. I don't want him regretting what he just did and trying to pull his arm out. So if I keep my head up, he might be able to. So if I'm here, he's stuck. And I'm just gonna roll my chest over his wrist, okay? Remember, he put his arm there. I'm just like keeping it trapped. So when he tries to dig that underhook, I block one. You could go here, I like to go here. And I position my chest. I might have to slide back a little bit. I find his wrist with the upper half of my chest and I block with my face. And I'm just gonna roll over. And he's stuck. So it's my chest that's wrist locking him right there. He's stuck. Another wrist lock I love from side control, and this one you can do from, this happens all the time, right? Like you're trying to go for a kimura and your opponent keeps his arm straight. And it's not always easy to get the kimura when he keeps a straight arm, right? How do I bend this elbow? And this is not a good kimura anyway. So what I do when this situation happens and I can't bend the elbow is I'm always gonna control the wrist with my middle finger and my thumb. So this is the handcuff that I'm looking for right here. So as he straightens his arm, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dig my head underneath his elbow, like I'm putting myself in a guillotine. Also notice that my arm is gonna go from shoulder to being as close as possible to the elbow. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, and I catch him right there. They don't see it coming, and when I bend the elbow, the wrist bends very quickly. Like he's very strong here, but if I can bend his elbow, there's something that happens to his wrist, it becomes very weak. It's very easy to bend. You gotta remember I'm blocking his elbow with my left arm here too, so it folds very quickly. So one more time, he keeps his arm straight. I'm gonna dig my head in there like I'm putting myself in a guillotine. And then I catch him right there. This works the other way around too. So if he had the guillotine already, I can control the wrist, I block the elbow, and then I tap him right here. I just, yes. It's the same thing. So I can start with the kimura and put myself in the guillotine, or I can be in the guillotine, control the wrist, and then I move him out. The reason I love these, and I always recommend like, for example, a wrist lock over an arm bar from side control, for example, is because I don't have anything to lose if I have that, if I miss that wrist lock, right? If I go for an arm bar from side control, I call those moves sacrifice moves. Basically, I lose my top position and now I'm underneath them. But if I go for a wrist lock and I miss, I have another shot. I can try another wrist lock, I can try a key lock, I can try a kimura, I can try all these other submissions that I don't have to really compromise my position, right? Like I'm very safe when I'm going for them. So I always prefer those. The other thing, one more thing about this wrist lock, when I'm going for it, guys, always remember, and I mentioned this earlier, but just to emphasize it, my middle finger and my thumb around his wrist. So the palm of my hand is gonna be on top of his hand. I don't wanna be too high when I do this, so I don't be too close to the hand. I wanna be right here, so when I fold, I have my palm pushing into the top, like my palm is on his knuckles more or less, right? So it's the perfect size, and that's the wrist lock I'm going for. Because it's not that you can't control here, but all the times you do this, it becomes more predictable that you're trying to wrist lock them. So I prefer this guy a lot of times, especially if it's a surprise attack. And then when I block the elbow, it's very quick. It's very quick to catch him. You'll see this from other positions too, also, not just from side control. You start looking, you're gonna find them everywhere. All right, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is some of my favorite wrist locks from side control. They're tricky submissions. They're low risk, high reward, right? If I miss, I don't really get tired. I'm not compromising my position. If I get them, I win the fight. So I highly recommend. I think wrist locks are very underrated, in fact. I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to share it with your friends. If there's anything you want to learn specifically, please comment below. Subscribe to the channel. We have new stuff coming out all the time. So please make sure that you're aware of the new stuff that we're putting in the channel. And yeah, guys, spread the word. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys next time.